Bonjour! Hi! In episode 46, I was with Brian Clark and we explored the best extension of Visual Studio Code to work with Azure. So here, what we found. But now, I would like to share your screen, Mr. Brian, and jump on VS Code and continue to explore the Visual Studio extension. So let's move on.
Yes. And thank you everybody in chat for your questions.
Yeah, great question, everybody.
I love the transitions you have, by the way.
Thank you. I work hard on that, and I'm planning to add more stuff.
Oh, we must talk more. All right, so to kind of pick up where we last left off from the last time I was on the show, part one, which again, Frank has shared the link to that. I don't know if you want to drop that in the chat one more time for folks to maybe catch up on again. In that, we reviewed this Azure Tools extension. Yes, it's on screen. So this Azure Tools, if you go into the Visual Studio Code app, you click on this little, building blocks kind of icon. It might be on the left side for you. I have mine on the right side. We can save a discussion on that at a later time on why I do that. But you click on that icon, it brings up the extensions view. And if you search for Azure Tools, you will see this first option at the top. And that is it's what's described as an extension pack. It basically aggregates other extensions together for a single, focus or idea. Like you'll see ones around Angular or React or Vue or Python. People can aggregate a bunch of extensions together to make it easy to find ones that are going to help you with your development workflow for building out applications, websites, whatnot, with those tools.
It's like a six-pack. It's a bunch of muscle grouped together. Great tool work to group together.
Yes, what's interesting when you said six-pack.
Yeah, you were thinking about
six-pack
drinks.
The muscle, and I'm thinking about the a six-pack of beers or something. So there's where's our
no, those one doesn't help. Well, the other six-pack.
Right, exactly. So Azure Tools is an aggregation extension pack, so to speak, and in there it comes with a bunch of Azure-related extensions that are going to help you with working within Azure when you're going to be using Azure as your cloud provider for various purposes. So some of those purposes would be based on the products within Azure you might use. There's Azure App Service, Azure Functions, Azure Storage, Azure Databases, and so on. I believe, I know we covered a little bit Azure App Service in the last session, Azure Functions, and Azure Databases. Right, Frank?
Yep.
So today what we're hoping to possibly cover is Azure Storage, Azure Resource Manager, and Docker in terms of what's available in the Azure.
The CLI tool, we could have a glimpse of that. It's pretty handy also. If you're writing scripts, or I could even, Like if you don't know that one because you didn't do, I could help guide you to just discover it. It's pretty cool. I use that all the time.
I'm actually interested in you showing that because to me, honestly, as a web developer who would use Azure for the purposes around web development type stuff, the Azure CLI Tools extension, I don't know why I would personally use it. I haven't discovered it or dug deeper to try and figure out why I might use that particular extension. Whereas in my experience, I've used like Azure Databases, Azure App Service, Azure Functions before for the purposes of the type, but that's just the type of development I'm doing and the type of work I'm doing within Azure. But everybody uses Azure in their own unique way for their purposes, right?
Definitely. And that's the beauty of it. That's why we have All Around Azure, because there's so much stuff you can coming from or going to, where Azure in the middle or around it, whatever.
So here's the thing with that in mind, right, is that's a beautiful thing to have all those options, but that's a lot of options. But maybe you've already figured out which products you're going to be using for your purpose of development. I don't guarantee, but I want to say the nice thing here is if you know the name of the product that you're using in Azure, there's likely a corresponding extension within Visual Studio Code that will help you out with that. So right now, this is kind of just showing you some of the core ones based on these Azure tools. But there's other ones that if you just search for Azure in the marketplace, the extension marketplace for VS Code, there's going to be other options beyond just the ones that are installed, a part of this extension pack. So with Azure Storage, I had it installed already, just re-enabled it for the purposes of this demonstration. And then what that does is in the past, right? So there's this icon on the right-hand side. This side of me? Yeah, this side. the little Azure icon that shows up in the activity bar whenever you install an Azure related extension. That'll bring up this new explore, kind of like the File Explorer view, but there's these different collapsible sections. In the past, we looked at database, app services, and functions, but now that I have the Azure Storage extension installed, it just gets added as another section as part of this view. And so this allows me to explore any resources or instances of Azure Storage that I have set up, which to be honest, I'm not sure. I don't work with Azure Storage that much with the stuff.
You work with Azure Storage, you just don't know it.
That's the thing, right? That's what I'm kind of...
Azure Storage is everywhere. Is the resources across the board. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And I've kind of realized that a little bit in this. For instance, like I didn't know that these two were here. These ones that are showing up under my one subscription that I have. This BC Housebot and my chat bow. It must have got cut off, or I had a typo. I don't know. Those two are instances of Azure Storage. I'm kind of hesitant to open these up, but I mean, whatever. Let's go for it. Azure Web Jobs host, file shares, queues, and tables. So for me, I would probably, in the past, at least a little bit that I've done with exploring with Azure Storage is around the table side of things.
Yep.
And exploring what's being able to store stuff in, there's bot data. So maybe that's like the logs and history of the bot data. What happens let's do host logs. What does that do?
We did cover, if you're interested to learn more on Azure Storage, we had 2 shows with Shannon Keen on that episode. I'm looking through the archive here, 38 and 43, I think. If you go at blog.allaroundazure.com, we spend a lot of time talking about the only topic of those episodes were the Azure Storage. So what we see right now in the Azure Storage extension is when you create an account, you have the blob. So that's where you put images, video, like it's kind of a, just like a little bit of everything, just like a blob, right? Just like, and like it's that's a hard one. Compartmented. Divide by containers, but not the rubber table containers. Then you have the files. If you think about VMs and shared folder and stuff like that, so the file share is that kind of storage. Then you have the queues. So when you decouple different system and you want to have like priorities, for example, the most common example is if you have like a store that record transaction and you have a backend process processing those transactions. In between, you will put a queues. There's more stable, more powerful queues than the one in storage, but that's a good one sometime when you want to try or experiment. And then the tables is a unstructured kind of or a structure. It's like table storage tables. The tables in storage are. I'm not sure if they are. I think they are called structure NoSQL, kind of. They are in between those two. Like I use that a lot for my UL shortener. I use that because they are very, very budget friendly. So that's pretty cool that you could explore all of those. Like there's a Storage Explorer that's a standalone tool that work on any platform. But that's pretty cool that you could have it directly from Visual Studio.
Yeah, and kind of what we saw with like the other in the past episode, a lot of functionality that you would typically expect to do directly in the portal or maybe through the Azure CLI, you can do via this extension in this little Explorer view here. In that, like I can, you right click and get that context menu. You can do things like open in Storage Explorer if you have that, open it in the portal, up on your browser, copy the connection string. So if you're doing this development and you don't want to have to go back, maybe you close down your browser for the portal and you don't want to have to go back and try and find the connection string, you just copy it directly here. Browse the static website. Oh, you can deploy. This is new. I didn't know that. Deploy to static website via Azure Storage. Okay.
Well,
there we go.
That would be not the new static webs.
It's not? Okay.
It's like before the new package, like the new one that was released at Ignite.
Yes.
The static web app. It's kind of a packaging or a wrap between Azure Function for a dynamic backend and the static web app inside the storage. So Microsoft packaged all of those, had a little like kind of hidden functionalities there, and like they introduced the new Azure Static Web App. This is a static website. Oh no, it's a web app. Maybe it is. But I felt like it was
extension. Sorry, while you're talking through that, Frank,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I want to see if we have an extension for VS Code yet for it, and we do. It's in preview. Big parentheses right there. In fact, I'm going to install this now.
Yeah,
We'll check that
think
out
the one in
next.
storage was website. That's the difference.
Yes. Oops. Go back here. Here.
That one will create a storage with a container called _web. And like you can still do that, but
Right.
yeah.
But there's probably it's the Azure Static Web. If you're going to go that route where you want to host a static web app or website, you'd probably want to go via Azure Static Web Apps today.
Oh, yeah. Like
Right.
That's why like they make it easier. Though like it's in preview right now, but it's evolving very fast. The team there is really aggressive, doing a lot of things. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So the cool thing with this, right? A lot of it is based on right-clicking context menu within this, UI user interface-based tooling. But I mean, you can create tables, create a queue, refresh to, in case maybe you made one via the portal or somebody else on your team made one, you need to refresh to see it on your end. You can do that. If you need to create a storage account, connect or attach to a storage account. This is the other thing that kind of piqued my interest as we were kind of talking here, and I was just exploring this a bit more. You can attach to storage accounts, like local storage accounts. So I believe.
Yeah, there's the emulator.
Yes, you can. If I don't have it, maybe it got installed as part of this. I don't know. But if I wanted to run like an instance of Azure Storage to do locally, maybe I don't have an internet connection right now, and I need to do my development, but still continue working on things and making progress. I can run it locally on my machine. So that's nice. That's cool, and we can connect to it and explore it via this extension. Anything else? We can deploy. A lot of what we're seeing. There's different. You go one way or the other. You have your options so that whichever way you're used to discovering features and functionality, you're going to be able to find that functionality that you're looking for via that. So whether it's the right-click context menu kind of thing, or via little icons like these ones up in the sash bar, as one would say. Sash. I don't know why it's called a sash. Do you know, Frank? Sorry, a little squirrel moment, but
I just learned a new word. I was again worried about what you just said, and then I assumed it was something else. So
chat, Frank, I don't know why. Thinks that everything I'm saying has double meaning.
I have a smaller repertoire or vocabulary in English, right? So I do what I can.
But you shouldn't be worried. I'm not going to do that to you.
Well, that's why I was like, it probably means something else.
So yes, at least that's what I've heard before. These little collapsible title areas, I think they did. Well, I think the technical term in the way VS Code describes that UI element is called a sash.
Oh.
But I might be wrong. Don't quote me. All right, so that's Azure Storage if you're using Azure Storage, which Frank described earlier why you might use some of the reasons or scenarios you would use Azure Storage in. Being that we brought it up and we're talking about it, I want to check out the Azure Static Web Apps extension, which is now installed. Let's say you installed it. We're going through this experience together, folks in chat and viewers watching this maybe later on. We're going to go through. I have not run through this extension before, so we're going to read the README when you have an extension. You click on it, you look at the README that's built into it here, and use this extension to quickly create and manage Azure Static Web Apps, preview directly from VS Code. So let's see if we can do that. Should we try doing that, Frank, or what do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Am I diverging from the plan a little bit too much? No? Okay.
Yeah, just go for it.
Okay. All right, I'm going for it. Create your first static web app. Click the plus button in the Explorer to set up a new static web app. Okay, where is it under, though? Right here. Let's create a new one. The extension Azure Static Web Apps wants to sign in using GitHub. I am overly paranoid in terms of what might show up on screen, Frank. So if you could switch it really quickly to our camera view.
Give me 2 seconds.
And I'll talk through everybody.
All good.
Okay. All right. So don't worry, folks. I'm going to talk you through what's going on. So I'm going to click allow. And then that opens up my browser to a website that's about authorized Visual Studio Code to access GitHub. I'm going to click continue. I've done this before. Why? I'm going to click and saying, do you want a single sign-on to your organization? No, I just want to log into me. Then it's asking for GitHub for VS Code by GitHub would like additional permissions to my public SSH keys.
So it's doing exactly the same when you're creating in the portal. When you're creating a new static web app, it's asking you like that. You need to kind of fill a form where it's asking you permission from your GitHub. Because right now, if you want to deploy a static web app, you need to have the code in GitHub. So right now, it's kind of filling for you that form. Am I correct? So it's question by question with the UI of Visual Studio Code and the at the top of the screen in the command palette kind of thing.
I haven't made it that far yet. I'm still signing in and giving permissions.
Oh, it's some pop-up that show up, and then like you need to register.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was basically to authorize VS Code to have access to my GitHub account, and then it's saying, okay, return back. Oh, do you want to open up Visual Studio Code again? Do you want to authorize? I'm going to hit open, and now it's saying, do I want to allow the extension to open this URI in Visual Studio Code now? So I'm going to click open. And I'm logged in. Okay, so now we can share my screen again. Let me know when we're ready.
Yep. Where are you?
Okay, so now now it's kind of hard to see based on the theme I'm using, but in the top center of the screen there's a prompt that says create static web app, step 1 of 8. I need to enter a new name. I don't know why I was talking like that. A name for the new static web app. What shall we call it, folks in chat? What shall we call it? Shall we call it Funky, Frank?
Yeah, you copy me
Friday,
with your background, right?
Stream. I don't know. Static mix static app. Okay.
Static mix static app. Wow.
Static mix static app. In camel case. Thank you, Bald Bearded Builder in the chat. We're going with that. I hit enter. What organization? This is based on my GitHub organization, so I'm going to go with the Clarkio one. Need to choose a repository. What if I don't have one? Create a new. Oh, there we go. Answered. New GitHub repository. What do we call it again? Static mix static app. Enter. Enter the location of the application code. For example, okay, we'll go with the default. Azure Functions code API. Okay, we'll go with the default. We'll go with the default. Central US sounds good to me. And there we go. Now behind me on the screen, if I make this smaller, will that help? Can you see it better? No, it doesn't resize this guy.
Successfully created new static web app.
Okay. Now I have the option to view the output of that or show actions. That was really fast. That was really fast.
Just Michael, I'm sorry, I was laughing. Michael Jolly said, okay, provided value. Now it's time to clock out of the day for the day.
Yeah. Enjoy. Have a good rest of your day, Michael Jolly. You really did. You really did. Job well done. And then, so in terms of what I can do, I clicked on View Actions, and what that actually meant was GitHub Actions, which this might be new to some folks. But GitHub Actions is like, something built into GitHub now.
It's automation flow inside GitHub that automates some processes.
Yes. So I'm looking at that, and it seems to be like it ran something, like it queued a job. It's doing a build and deploy of nothing right now.
Oh, we have a good question from hmoney007 asking,
sure,
when you say static web app, what exactly does that mean?
Excellent question, HMoney. Thank you for asking it. Like same as old school HTML static web pages, question mark, says HMoney as well. Essentially, yes. So static web app, meaning your application doesn't necessarily require a back-end API or server to host your pages, to host your website, to host your web app. That's to me my definition and the way I would describe a static web app. Doesn't necessarily mean it is static in that nothing changes in the web page. It just means that like I don't know why it's called static in that way, right? It just means that you don't necessarily rely on a server to host the web pages, like an API to host the web page. That's not to say that you can't have an API that goes with it, but you can essentially just deploy and host this website separately on its own without having to host it, having a server, your own written server basically, to host it for you. So H-Money says, that makes sense. So if the static web app has a database it writes to, does that make it not static? No, I don't think so, because in this case you can have that. Think of it essentially as this: it's a standalone website that doesn't rely on a server that you write yourself to host the resources for that website to run. Now that app can go make a call over to an API that then accesses a database, and that's still fine. It still makes that component of your full project a static website in a sense. So I hope that helps. Yeah.
We did talk a lot about, that was the topic of episode 15. I was looking in our archive, and I was with John Papa, and the full episode was focused. He showed how to create and deploy many different static web app with using many different framework and everything. At that time, since it was just released, it was just in JavaScript. These days, it's also possible with Blazor. But I put the link in the chat. If you want to have a look, we spend time about thinking about, when does it not mean it's static anymore? Why should we use that? What are the good scenario? And John Papa has many different GitHub repository where you could see like whatever framework you're using. At that time, like I said, it was just JavaScript, so there's tons of JavaScript framework, but today you could even use C# Blazor.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So then maybe we don't need to go into any more depth than we have so far, I guess, on Azure Static Web Apps, since we all kind of went through it. But at least we got to see. I mean, I was able to. I know I'm not demonstrating it, but get started at least for the first time to create an Azure Static Web App via the extension. And it did follow through. Like all these prompts, the screenshots that are in the README are actually what I was seeing on my end, but I was being paranoid and didn't want anything to accidentally get, visible on screen with a stream like this. So we went through all those steps, and then if I wanted to actually get my web app up and running, I would push changes to that repository, which will then deploy it to Azure Static Web Apps for me. So that's kind of what it did. It laid the foundation down so that I can now share and deploy my web app via this GitHub repository. That's not to say that's the only way I think you can, or at least will. But anyway, we check out that episode with John Papa that goes into more detail on that kind of stuff. Cool.
Do you want to talk about the Azure CLI?
I don't, but I know you do. So
well, it's just like I had a promise. Now I need to tell. Well, it's fun to use. So
yes,
could you create a new file on your Visual Studio and put the extension AZCLI? So save the file as whatever, like test.azcli. Save it. Control-Shift-S. And then you...
AZCLI.
Yeah, that's the extension, AZCLI. Well, like you could put like test or demo or whatever as a name of the file, and the extension must be...
It's called Frank. Let's go.
Excellent. Okay, so the tool is not for, it's not replacing a terminal. It's when you're working on a script. Maybe you forgot, what's the parameter, or what do I need to pass to blah, 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 blah. And then when you're building a script, what do? You copy, paste the function, and maybe when you did your selection, you didn't copy the full sentence, or then you got an error, and so with that, in that file, what you could write now is you have IntelliSense with the CLI, so that's pretty cool. So right from the bat, when you're just typing AZ and then you're tab, you will have all the option of what you want. So you could right away do that if you want. And also, what I really like about that is when you are in your script, you just do control and then tick or apostrophe, and it will take the current line or the current selection and automatically paste it in your terminal. So there's no more copy paste. You just do it. It takes the whatever line you are and move it over there. And if you do it with Shift, then it take the result and put it in another tab of Visual Studio Code. So like for example, you're running a query. You say, oh, give me all the resource group that contain a VM that is disabled or something like that. And like you have a lot of VMs or a lot of containers and like you want all the result. So you could format the result and have it open another tab. So like then you could search more in detail. So it's really useful when you're like back and forward in a script or trying to debug a script or write a long deployment script. That tool is very cool for that.
Nice. So I guess because this is the thing that I've always struggled with, the CLI approach with these things is memorizing or knowing even all the command options that are there, and then the flags that you can put in, these other options that go with it, like name and query and that kind of stuff. So this kind of helps you where you don't have to memorize those things. You just kind of tab.
Exactly. So right now you just type AZ and then that will trigger the extension, and like you type whatever object you want to interact with, like
all right, give me an example.
Or database or whatever.
I'll be your
code. Just do AZ.
AZ.
And then tab or control space, I think.
It's loading.
Yeah, it's loading right now. There's a lot.
Oh, a lot. Holy moly.
So it
billing.
Could be, let's say a resource group. So probably group.
Send me all the money.
But it could be group. So what you can do is AZ group.
Okay, AZ group.
Or just type G and then tab. And then you could say, I want group. You want maybe to have a better format. So you want to change the output. So you could do we have something called output or something like that? Or we want a list first, right?
Oh, okay. List is loading. Hey, get off the Netflix over there, would you? I need more bandwidth so I can load this faster.
Delete.
List?
Yeah.
List
was there. Yeah. So we want to talk about the group. We want a list of it, and then we want to change the format. So if you do that, what's coming up? If you do control space now.
Control space? It's just gonna load. I'm sorry. Too much
loading and streaming
movies.
And stuff. So you could do -O for output.
Okay.
And then tables, because Robert Tables is there, so we'll use that.
Tables.
Table, yeah.
Okay.
Singular, sorry. That was my Franglish.
Franglish.
And then if you right click on that line, it will open the context menu. And you see right there, there's the control apostrophe, or you could just click that to execute it in the terminal. Or if you want to see what's there in the editor, what it does.
Warning. Credentials have expired due to inactivity. Please run AZ login.
Okay, right. So like right now what it says is trying to run a command against your Azure subscription, but you're disconnect because it's been a while since you use Azure CLI, and we won't make you connect. But usually what it does, it will open that connection, connect, execute the command, and put the result where you are. So it's pretty cool for that.
Yeah, this is essentially calling me out that I haven't logged into the Azure CLI in a long time.
Well, like, you know, if you refresh or like clean up or like stuff, it will do that too.
Yes, but at least we know that it tried to run the command, so that's working, and it's kind of cool that it shows the output in the editor view here, or if I right-clicked and said go into the terminal as well, right? So
it will open the terminal in the bottom, or like, okay, your terminal is somewhere else. It's not in the bottom.
That's neat. Gotcha. Yes, exactly, Robert Tables. Shots fired. Don't show this to your boss, Kappa. Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. And then Robert Taylor's saying, I think Chair is clogging up your inner tubes with poker chips doing football. I don't know. Maybe. Chair has a mind of its own. All right, moving on.
What do you want to show? Like, you still have 10 minutes.
I have 10 minutes?
Yeah.
That means 20 minutes in Clarkio time, right? So 20 minutes. What else do we got here? Let's look at some more of the extensions that we have. We wanted to talk about Docker. Docker, while it's not exactly Azure specific, you can, use Docker and containers within Azure, and that's specific. So, but the beauty of this extension is, regardless of what, whether you're using the cloud or not, or what cloud provider you're using, working and managing your Docker containers and files, Docker files, this extension is going to help you greatly. Very similar to, like, specifically, let's talk about the Docker file stuff. Very similar to what Frank was kind of talking about with the Azure CLI stuff, getting that IntelliSense to know that your scripting of Azure-related resources using the Azure CLI is working out right, and you're using the right commands. You could do the same thing with your Docker files with Docker. So it can kind of help you make sure you're doing the right thing, or at least finding the right commands that you want to for your projects. Docker extension makes it easy to build, manage, and deploy containerized applications from Visual Studio Code. It also provides one-click debugging of Node.js, Python, and .NET Core inside a container. So I don't have Docker running in this moment right now because whenever we're streaming and stuff like that, I try to close out things that I'm not going to necessarily be using to save on resources for my computer I'm running on. But if you have Docker running on your local machine already, this will help you just kind of spin things up within containers using Docker on your local machine. And then you can do things. You'll get a new context menu, which, do I have that available here? Yes, I do. It's hiding behind me. If I move it up, here. When you install the Docker extension, you're going to get, you see, failed to connect because I'm not running it right now. You're going to have this icon in the activity bar. It's the little, the Docker icon. I was combining Docker and icon there. The Docker icon that's available in the activity bar. You can see which containers you might have running, the images that you're using for said containers, whatever registries you might be using, whether that's Docker or Azure, and so forth, and volumes and networks and context. I don't know what all that means, but those are things too that you can manage and use with the Docker extension directly in your development tool.
It's really, really convenient because you don't need to jump and type commands and stuff. You have the list and you could skip through and have only the one you're currently working kind of extend or open. And then like you could dig into it. It's very nice. Generate also Docker file in your project. So when you just like having the rough of your Docker file created for you, that's pretty cool. Then you could deploy from there and watch the status while you're continuing to work on stuff. So pretty nice. I hope you find extension that you didn't know and now start using it. If you think we forgot some, please leave a comment with them. We'll review that and maybe bring Brian Clark for a third part of the show. It will mean a lot if you click the subscribe button and give it a thumbs up if you liked the episode. And for now, I have other show just for you prepared, so other part of the episode 46 and other demo just for you. See you soon. Bye.